Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast, the show where we take very serious global crises, put them under a microscope, and then nervously laugh so we don't scream. I'm your host, Maple, and today we're talking about something light, fun, totally relaxing, the escalating military preparations in the Indo-Pacific, as the US and its friends quietly and not so quietly prepare for a possible China-Taiwan conflict. Yes, that topic. The one where every country says, we're not preparing for war while buying missiles like they're on Black Friday sale. So grab your coffee, tea, or emotional support beverage because nothing pairs better with geopolitics than mild existential dread. Okay, let's dive right in. Take a look at this place. This is Yonaguni Island. It's part of Japan's Okinawa prefecture, and, it looks like a total paradise, right? It's a dream destination for divers who want to see hammerhead sharks. But here's the kicker. It's only 70 miles from the coast of Taiwan. Seriously, so close that on a clear day you can actually see Taiwan's mountains on the horizon. And that proximity? It's turned this incredibly serene spot into a potential front line in a war that absolutely nobody wants. And this is the reality for the people who actually live there. At a recent town hall meeting, one resident stood up and asked defense officials that exact question. You can just feel the anxiety. Another person asked, when China decides they've had enough and launches a big strike on Yonaguni, what are we supposed to do? It's such a stark reminder that while governments are talking about high-level strategy and deterrence, real people are living with the consequences of this constant grinding tension. So to really get the big picture, we're actually going to start small, right here on this tiny island. We're going to look at how a destination known more for its mysterious underwater ruins is being transformed into a critical piece of a much, much larger military puzzle. So why is this tiny island suddenly so important? Well, Yonaguni is Japanese territory, and since the United States is a key ally of Japan, this island becomes the closest piece of land to Taiwan that the U.S. can readily access. Think about it. In any potential conflict, experts all say U.S. involvement would be decisive, but they'd be operating thousands of miles from home. Outposts just like this one are meant to shrink that distance. And the transformation on the island is, well, it's surreal. This contrast says it all. On one side, you've got these indigenous wild horses just peacefully grazing, and on the other, those same rolling hills are now home to sprawling radar sites and PAC-3 missile interceptors. The Japanese Self-Defense Forces base there is expanding so fast, its personnel could soon outnumber the island's entire civilian population. Which brings us right back to the residents. They're being told that all these new electronic warfare systems and surface-to-air missiles are just defensive equipment. But they are worried. They're already complaining the radar installations are messing with their phone service. But more importantly, they fear that all this military hardware doesn't make them safer. It just makes them a bigger target. And when they ask what happens if an attack actually comes, defense officials don't really have clear answers for them. So, now that we've seen the view from one tiny island, let's zoom out. The Indo-Pacific right now is like a group chat where everyone says they're calm, but half the people are screenshotting messages, one guy is lifting weights aggressively, and someone else just bought a bunker for defensive reasons. Let's meet the key players in this crowded chessboard. First up, the United States. They have over 55,000 troops just in Japan. Officially, they're optimizing U.S. force posture by deploying more versatile, resilient, and mobile capabilities. What does that mean? Well, they're making their forces faster and more flexible, rotating them through Japan, the Philippines, Guam, and Australia. You could think of it as strategic sightseeing with F-35s. And this isn't just some plan on a whiteboard. They are actively practicing. The U.S. and Japan recently held their largest ever joint military exercise, Resolute Dragon, with nearly 20,000 troops. They drilled moving equipment on and off islands, just like Yonaguni, simulating evacuations and emergency responses, all to get everyone familiar with the terrain before a crisis hit. And then you've got Japan. For decades, they have had a pacifist constitution. But now, facing this new reality, the government is basically reinterpreting that pacifism like it's a terms and conditions update. Article 9 still applies, but with DLC. They're deploying new missile systems to their southern islands and hardening their defenses for a potential conflict right on their doorstep. Meanwhile, China has undertaken one of the most rapid military expansions in modern history. Its navy is now the largest in the world. It outnumbers the U.S. in several key areas, including total troops and warships. Beijing's official position is that Taiwan is an internal matter, and they've repeatedly threatened to take control, all while conducting massive amphibious landing exercises that look, Well, suspiciously like amphibious landing. In Taiwan? Ah, yes, Taiwan. They are just sitting around waiting to be rescued. They're boosting their own defenses, recently announcing a supplementary defense budget of over 38 billion US dollars. They're getting advanced systems like HIMARS rocket launchers from the US to create a layered defense. It's like being told you're in a group project you never asked for, but you are absolutely going to defend your slide.
So, with all this military buildup, all this spending, and all this rising tension, what's the actual goal? Well, it's all based on one core strategic idea, a real paradox that has defined international security for generations.
The strategy is called deterrence. And in geopolitical language, that basically means, please don't make me use all the stuff I just bought. In simpler terms, it's every nation saying, I am armed so well that you would be crazy to try me. The entire logic here is that if everyone is too strong to be attacked, then no one will ever start a fight. It's a great theory, right? And it's the official justification for this massive arms race. But you got to ask the critical question, does it actually work? Well, this strategy has historically worked right up until the moment it suddenly and catastrophically doesn't. Quick pause if you're enjoying this explainer, or at least enjoying yelling, wow, that's dark at your speaker. Do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, or share this with a friend who says, I don't follow geopolitics, but somehow has very strong opinions about Taiwan. Reviews help the algorithm, and the algorithm, unlike governments, is brutally honest and completely unforgiving. All right, back to our regularly scheduled anxiety. Okay, so this brings us to the final, crucial, million-dollar question. For decades, Washington's official policy has been strategic ambiguity, basically being intentionally vague about whether it would actually intervene in a China-Taiwan war. So what would it actually take for the U.S. to finally get involved? Well, according to Randy Shriver, who was a top U.S. defense official for the region, it would all come down to three key factors. First, the justification. How does China start the conflict? Is there a pretext? Second, Taiwan's own response. In those first critical days, does Taiwan resist effectively? And third, the global context. What else is happening in the world, and how stretched are U.S. forces at that exact moment? If all those conditions are met, the U.S. would still face a massive challenge from China's defenses, which are specifically designed to keep U.S. forces out. So America would likely have to play its one true card, its underwater capabilities. We're talking assets like nuclear-powered submarines, which can operate where surface ships and aircraft can't, giving the U.S. a free hand to strike back. So where does this leave us? Well, the Indo-Pacific is locked in a paradox. Everyone is preparing for a war that nobody wants, in the hope that their preparations will prevent that very war from ever starting. Everyone is hoping someone else blinks first. It's tense, it's complicated, and it's being managed by humans, which historically is not exactly a confidence booster. Huge thanks, as always, to producer FireflyHaku, the only producer brave enough to say, yes, let's make this topic funny and accurate. Much like the Indo-Pacific balance of power, this show would collapse instantly without careful coordination, quiet competence, and just a little controlled chaos. And thank you for listening, for being curious, skeptical, and nerdy enough to stick around. Until next time, stay informed, stay calm, and remember, just because everyone says nothing is going to happen doesn't mean nothing is happening. Take it easy.